Right then guys, we're back for another video. What an absolute cracking Sunday morning. So you join me here in the koi pond. This video is a bit about growing fish. This video is a little bit about keeping koi. And if you're thinking about getting into the koi hobby or building a pond, stick around and just have a listen and, well, see what you think of this video. From the early days of me keeping koi, was well underestimated. I thought the first pond that I ever built, chuck some fish in there, have a little filter, thinking that that would be man enough to do the job for what it needs to be done for a koi pond. And how wrong was I? Even though I love my old koi pond, I love the hobby, I love cleaning out the filters every week. I've sort of progressed my hobby since then, and I just wanted to lead on to talk a bit about the growing of fish and a little bit of explanation about that. The most important thing about growth is what you feed a fish. Genetics do play a big part in it. Breeders play a big part in it. To get any decent growth is also temperature related, how much times a day you're feeding the fish. There's loads of factors that come into growing your fish. Most importantly, it's what diet you put them on. I've been using the sake balance with the mixture with a little bit of sake multi-season, mixture of sake growth. Every time you feed your fish, you're dealing with ammonia through your system, turnover rates of your pond. It all plays a massive factor in growing your fish and the right setup. But firstly, the biggest factor that you deal with is mechanical filtration. I chose a drum filter, which this cleans all of the dirty poo, dirty waste, all hands free. Several different brands available on the market, but the water comes in through one side of the drum and it also comes in through this side of the drum in my one, because it's got a 6 inlet on it. It's got a float switch on it down there, so this is a 60 micron screen, so the clean water's got to come out of this. And what happens is when that float switch drops, it triggers this to clean itself, and this is like turbo nozzles on the end, same as your pressure washer. And as it cleans, it flushes all of the dirty water down into this tray that you see, where you can see a bit of the dirty water, and then that flushes it straight down the drain. And this can clean, depending on how many times I'm feeding my fish, but this can clean 7 or 8 times every hour, and that's what they class as mechanical filtration. Then runs through on gravity feed into a biological filtration, and this is what deals with all of your ammonia, your nitrates, your nitrites, and it just cleans the water and pushes it back towards the pond. People don't realise when you have any sort of biofiltration, the water needs a decent dwell time in the tank. Part of the reason why these tanks are so big, because the water that comes in needs a certain period of time to make contact with your media, which the media is several different types you can get. And the reason why they use bits of plastic like this is because it's got a high surface area. Good beneficial bacteria on there eats all of the dirty bad bacteria, and then it returns to a pump up into your pond and returns back to your pond. But you really need a real slow flow rate for any biological filtration. It works slightly different with shower filter. Shower filters play a different part of the biological system, with the water trickling over the media, which in mine I used a ceramic media, a media from Mountain Tree. Very, very happy with it. When filtering a koi pond, you can never have enough biomedia, in my opinion. My opinion over the years and the experience of keeping koi, the more that you feed a koi pond, the more biological media that's needed to store beneficial bacteria, and it means that you can feed more often, more regular. But what I'm getting to in this video is consistency, and having an auto feeder like I've got there, the water doesn't change. I don't come home from work one night, for instance, and chuck 3 or 4 handfuls of food into a pond, or I might come home on a Sunday and chuck it during the daytime, which is a massive change to a koi pond, dealing with different bacteria levels in the pond all of the time. If you can keep it consistent by having an auto feeder, and I'm saying, yeah, you don't have to have one, but it certainly does help if you have got one. Whatever you're putting into your pond, with the filtration that I was just talking about, you've got more time for the beneficial bacteria to build up and can deal with what you're putting into the pond. Overall, keeps your ammonia levels consistent, keeps all of your water quality levels consistent, and I believe it plays one of the biggest ball games in keeping koi is obviously what food that you're feeding, at the same time how you're feeding. So as I said earlier on in the video about heating a koi pond is another massive factor to keeping a koi pond, for growth for the fish that is. Koi are cold-blooded species, so you don't necessarily have to keep them heated over the colder winter months, over the colder periods, throughout the season of the year. What you'll find is that a lot of people like to keep the pond heated just because it keeps everything stable, keeps everything the same, and it causes overall less complications. Doesn't mean just because you keep a heated koi pond that you have to absolutely smash them with food and get them massive. It's a big factor in keeping koi. A lot of koi competitions, a lot of places, and a lot to do with the hobby is taking a fish from this size and growing it to as big as you possibly can. Whether that does the fish any good by pumping it with absolutely loads of food, you know, pushing things upon boundaries that maybe they shouldn't be pushed, but that's another part of the human culture, I suppose. That's what we do as humans. We always try to do something that maybe shouldn't be done or should be done. But overall, what I'm getting at is that it's completely up to you how you do it, what you want to do, and if you want to do it. There's certainly a few factors that play a role of keeping koi healthy, as they say, surviving or thriving. It is a big thing, really. It does make a massive difference to how you want to do it, but you know, the biggest thing out of all is the cost of this hobby. It ain't a cheap hobby to be in. Some of the prices of fish are absolutely unbelievable. Some of the prices of the equipment that I've showed you are more than what a car would cost. But that's down to how you want to do it. You don't necessarily have to do it this way. This ain't the way that I started to do it. But over the years, and as I'm still learning myself, there's still other ways that I can do it myself and change things and make things better for myself. But overall, it's just because that's what we do, and it's down to if you want to do it or not. So overall, what I'm getting at with this video is little things to keep in mind, to be fair. If you're thinking about planning to upgrade your pond next year, or you like the look of a certain bit of equipment that you've seen in this video, or you think, I'm going to try that or try this, that's down to yourself of what to do, because there's so many people out there that do things differently to what I'm doing myself, and they get brilliant results. I'm still learning in this hobby myself, still learning how it all works. Even when you think you know quite a lot of things about the hobby, you'll get something that will completely blow your mind. I don't believe there's any experts out there that can say they haven't learned from somebody else, or what they have learned is because they've heard it from somebody else. It is a hell of a headbanger of a hobby when you get complications with keeping koi. Knowing what the problem is, what you're dealing with, and how to deal with certain problems, because clear water in a koi pond or in any pond doesn't necessarily mean that the water is healthy. Clear water is no sign or indication of that your water quality is good. That also is a massive headbanger to get your head round of how to keep a pond, especially a new pond, how to get it up and running without any causes of fish losses or fish getting sick or ill or injured. Along the way of keeping fish, what you'll find is that you'll get problems, i.e. parasites, maybe bacteria problems. There's several different things that can cause you an absolute headache of a job trying to work out what the problem is, but there's certain bits of equipment that you can buy to help you along the way. I'm just showing you what I use myself personally. As you can see up there, a microscope. For the people that are new to keeping koi or thinking about keeping koi, it's something that you don't really invest in when you first set out in the hobby. It's something that you don't really think that you'll need. There is several people out there, I know myself personally, that doesn't keep a microscope to check for parasites. What they do, where you buy your fish, if you've got a problem or any problem what you think you may have, you can go to your local aquarium store or koi dealer or wherever you purchase any fish from, and most of them are pretty well good, and they will, if you live close enough, if you take them up a fish, or if you take them a sample of the mucus layer which is on the skin of the fish, where you can just scrape across with a card, a plastic pot card or something like that, just to get a sample so it can be put under the microscope to check to see what you may or may not have. But the biggest problem of that is introducing new fish to a pond. When you first build a pond, should I say, the first thing that anyone wants to do is go to the shop and buy some new fish. Well, say for instance, most koi dealers or fish dealers, they've all been through quarantine, and most respectable dealers won't sell you a fish if there's a problem or if they can see a problem. But it only takes one parasite to come into your pond off of one fish from one place, and then 2 weeks later you go and buy another fish from another place, and then 3 weeks after that you go and buy another fish from a different place, and before you know it, you could be dealing with 3 different types of parasite from each person where you've gone and got that fish from. And then you start seeing problems like your fish jumping out of the pond, or your fish banged itself, or your fish keeps flashing around the pond, fast aggressive movements. And the only way to work out how to deal with things like that is with a microscope. That will identify what you have got, what you possibly could have, and it's just another one of those bits of equipment that you need later on keeping koi that makes your life a little bit easier. But overall, the most important bit of equipment that you can buy, water test kit. There's several different types you can get. Put this back for you. I monitor my water on a regular basis to see where we're at. You can also buy an upgraded version of a test kit. So how these work is that they give you a complete digital reading, and as you can see, I've picked out the chlorine one, which lead us on to something else again. Another bit of equipment that is needed in the UK is a dechlorinator. The reason why we use these in the koi world, because in the UK, whenever we fill up the pond by replenishing the water after the week or during the week, I trickle mine into the pond. So it's a constant trickle that flows into the pond. It never stops. Runs 24/7. The wife does get a bit touchy with me because we are on a water meter, so every bit of water that goes through the pond costs us money. I like to trickle in the water. It's another bill that you got to remember when you're keeping koi. But another factor what you got to bear in mind if you're thinking about starting the hobby, or if you're in the hobby, is how big you build a pond. Because all of the problems that I've just explained, when you build a pond to a certain size and you need to add a certain treatment to help your fish, or to kill a parasite, or to help the water quality, or whatever it may be, the bigger pond you go, the more treatment that it needs to do the same job. And what you got to remember, all of the treatments, you need to keep them in stock, but when you do need to buy them, you got to bear in mind every single one that you buy It tells you how much you treat for at the bottom. But what these companies don't tell you, certain treatments, I don't think I got one on the shelf, but one like this for instance, it doesn't tell you when you buy that how many times you need to treat that. You may have to treat that 2 weeks on a row. So you pay £40 for something, in effect you've got to retreat again, so that would cost you £80 if you get my drift. So bear that in mind when you're building a pond. So yeah, it ain't really the normal type of content that I put out. I could keep talking about this hobby for ages and ages, but the hardest thing with this hobby is to keep people interested and listen to how you can say it and how it comes across. It ain't the easiest hobby in the world to explain, because you start one place and you can end up 20 different places down the road. But I wanted to put this video together to see if it had any interest at all, see if people liked it, listened to it, and for the new people trying to get into the hobby. Because when you first start this hobby, if you join any Facebook group, if you join any online group or koi page or wherever you go, whichever koi dealer that you go, everyone will give you a different recommendation, a different reading, and it will play on your mind thinking, oh, he said, she said, whatever said, and that's another head banger as well. So I thought I'd just put this video together for you, just a little bit of information here and there. If it's any use for you, happy days. Subscribe to the channel for me, leave me a little comment down below if it was any use to you whatsoever, and it will let me know whether to make any more sort of this content or not, and hopefully trying to make it better on my half to try to explain things a little bit better. But like I said, I'm not an expert, I'm a hobbyist, and if any of this information, any of the hobby that I've learned I can share to help someone else, happy days. So I'm gonna end the video, and yeah, thank your mother for the rabbits, and I'll catch you all on the next one. That's me, James the Koi Whisperer.